Being here. This is always a great day for us in our program, and big day in college football everywhere. Where we get to sign the majority of our players for our recruiting class for the calendar year, and it's quite a bit different than it has been in the past. In that this is the early signing period. We'll have another one in February. A lot of things going on with the transfer portal as well, but we're really, really excited to announce this year's class. And I would say this: I want to start just thanking, our staff, who did such a great job traveling, our recruiting staff, all the hard work that they put in here on campus. And when these kids come to visit us, they just get incredible hospitality from Fort Collins and Colorado State University and everybody here, and really makes them feel home. So that's a big thank you to everybody there. I have to start, part of this process with the transfer portal and kids moving on to the National Football League. It kind of starts with your own football team. So the first thing I just want to say is that, the biggest recruiting job we had to do was really to talk to Torrey Horton and him and his family about the benefits of staying in college one more year, not going to the National Football League. And I just really felt the responsibility with my experience of coaching in the NFL, being involved in many Senior Bowls and many combines, evaluating players. I really felt he needed to know the good and bad with his decision and what he would weigh. And we're just so thankful that Torrey's coming back and excited. He's got a chance to have another 1,000-yard receiver. He'd be the first CSU receiver to have 3,000-yard seasons. And certainly he can enhance his stock as an NFL prospect. And so really excited about Torrey coming back, and the other tremendous players that we have coming back. I really felt like when we ended the season that the core of our team coming back would really be favorable with anybody else in the conference, and so that was really encouraging for us. As far as today's concerned, we signed 19 total signees from 6 different states. We have 3 kids from the state of Colorado, which is always where we start. Really excited about that. We have 12 kids from California, 1 from Arizona, 1 from Arkansas, 1 from Kansas, and 1 from Oregon. We typically have a number of kids from Texas, and we certainly spent some time down there. It just didn't work out this year that we were signing a bunch of kids from Texas. The position breakdown, we have 5 offensive linemen, 4 defensive linemen, 3 really quality receivers, 2 corners, 2 safeties, 1 quarterback, a running back, and 1 linebacker. So it kind of hits across the board. Just some of the notable kids that we have in this class that we're super excited about, all of them. But, Jalen Dupree's a running back from Arkansas. Went to see him last week, and he got notified that day that he was going to be the Arkansas Player of the Year. This senior season, he had 241 carries for 2,370 yards, 9.8 yards per carry, 34 touchdowns. It's pretty good. His career stats: 771 carries, over 6,805 yards in his high school career, 8.8 per attempt, 93 career touchdowns. Really a really impressive high school player. We're excited about Jalen Dupree. Outstanding receiver in Jordan Ross. He led the state of California in touchdowns with 27. Had 1,633 yards to go along with his 27 touchdowns. Just a really dynamic wide receiver. Number 2 recruit all time, according to 247 for CSU. So really excited about Jordan Ross. I think he's got a chance to be one of the next great receivers here at CSU. Darius Curry, highly coveted high school quarterback from Long Beach Poly. Dynamic player, very athletic, big arm, but just incredible leader, and so excited about him. He just finished his high school career with 80 touchdowns. So really impressive quarterback. Landon Bell, I guess, is the number 10 recruit all time, CSU, according to 247. Another big dynamic receiver that we're really, really excited about. All in all, 16 dual sport athletes in this class, and really, really excited. Excited about our in-state kids, Dagan Myers. Greg Myers' son, but he's a tremendously talented player in his own right. Here from the state of Colorado. Zach Smith from Thunder Ridge, a guy that's going to be a monster offensive lineman. And Jack Moran, another legacy player. His father, great player here for Coach Lubick. And Jack is a strong physical defensive lineman who we are so excited about. I talked about the quarterback, 3 dynamic receivers in this class that really, we go all over the world to find dynamic receivers. We attract them because of what we do offensively. But Jordan Ross from Warren High School in Compton, Corey Hall from Cleveland High School, and Landon Bell from Newberry Park, all dynamic guys that kind of fit that role that we love, of young Torrey Hortons, and we're excited about them. We got 4 offensive linemen in this class, and I think one of the big things that, we found in this age of transfer portal and all that, we have to get kids that are more ready to play coming out of high school, and Philip O'Con is about as physical a young center that we can find from St. Francis and La Cañada High School in South Pasadena. Excited about him. Holtos, Berlin Lilliard from Bishop O'Dowd, and Brandon Hales from Kansas. Really, really excellent offensive linemen. We got some dynamic defensive linemen as well. And, our philosophy with that is to recruit athletes that can grow into their bodies. So a lot of these guys are a little bit raw, but have the makeup of exactly what we're looking for to be big-time college defensive linemen. And so all in all, really talented class, multi-talented like we always look for. And this is going to be a class that is the basis of our recruiting. Obviously recruiting never stops. It never ends. We're going to be active in the transfer portal. I don't know. We'll probably recruit 6 to 8 kids. There's a couple of guys that have told us they're coming that we can't really talk about today. We had kids on campus last weekend, and because of their paperwork, and we're not allowed to talk to them about them at this time, but we're active. We'd like to recruit a couple more linemen in the portal. We're looking for a couple defensive backs in the portal, maybe a defensive lineman, and we're always looking for receivers. So if we can add playmakers to go with our offense, that'll help our young quarterback be more dynamic. We'll always be looking to add to that. So, we're also trying to hire a defensive line coach at this time, and so the wheel just keeps turning. We have a lot of work to do, but we're really excited about where we are at this point. And, this December 20th signing period gives you a chance to kind of catch your breath and regroup and really see what areas we need to fill out this class. And we'll get that opportunity with the second signing date and then, of course, with the transfer portal, kids will be able to visit January 3rd through the 7th, and we'll keep working through that process as well.
What do you attribute as, kind of the biggest key in your California and specifically LA success with your staff?
I just think there's a lot of turnover in college football. A lot of new staffs are being hired. Obviously with the conference realignment, you have California schools now that are going to be playing in the Big Ten, and then California schools that are going to be playing the ACC. I just don't think that I think we have a really good plan on recruiting California. We're invested in there. Our coaches know the area. We don't waste time, and the people know us. We've been back there year after year after year. We've taken care of their players. Their players have success in our program. They know they're going to get taken care of, and so I feel like we do as good a job in California as anybody in football. I really do, and so that's really important. We're a developmental program where we take players and we develop them and we work with them, and so I think the coaches there appreciate that, and we've signed another 12 players from there, and kids know that they can have success here at CSU, so that's really important.
What's it like when you're recruiting, Moran and Myers, guys that, dads obviously have huge success. Obviously it's a little different. They know a lot about CSU. Just what's that process like?
It's so cool. Sons of legacy players, they just grow up differently. And I, my father was a college player, and my earliest memory was seeing his Rose Bowl pennant. And my whole life I aspired to do that. So they've had the bar pretty high their whole lives, but they also know the experience of playing here at Colorado State, how important it is to their family, and for Colorado State to win and to be winners. And so bringing that into our program is critical. Over the years, I've always kind of had an eye on guys that came from football families and that understand what it takes. And so it's just so awesome, to see their families on campus and how much it means to them. And that matters on Saturdays. When you're out there fighting in the fourth quarter, all that history kind of builds up in a kid, and it shows the way they play. So we couldn't be more happy about Dagan and Jack.
Do you have any expectations for any of these players to kind of come in and make impacts maybe day one?
I think, I told our coaches, we don't recruit players to sit on the bench, okay? So, and we never have, and I probably learned that more at Oklahoma than anywhere. I just always recruited guys to play, and we expected them to come in and play, and so we want that mentality from players. We play freshmen. We're not afraid to play freshmen. I think a lot of coaches are. I've never been that way. If a kid's got talent and he can help us, we throw him in there. I'll never forget Torrey Horton's first game. We were playing Wyoming, and we were on the 20-yard line, and we had a corner out called, and I asked our receiver coach, I said, is Torrey good? And they said, yeah, and we threw a touchdown. He scored the first touchdown of the game. The second touchdown was by Avery Morrow, another freshman. So we're not afraid to play freshmen, and so we've got a lot of talented kids, especially these skill players. They're going to push our guys as soon as they show up on campus, and so they're dynamic. They've scored, Corey Hall scored 5 touchdowns in one game as a wide receiver on a jet sweep. I said, did the defense ever adjust to that? 5 touchdowns on jet sweep. But that's the kind of talented guys we have. I mean, Jalen Dupree was, I think, a handful of yards from being the all-time leading rusher in the history of Arkansas. And there's been a lot of good players that have come out of Arkansas. And I think he had the record and he lost it on kneeling a couple plays at the end of a game. So that just kind of shows the talent that Jalen Dupree has. So yes, I think we have players in this class that can come in and play right away.
How big is Torrey coming back from the standpoint of that these young recruits get that year to learn from him? And
No
watch
doubt.
him and,
I think the best thing about a program, once you start getting some traction and you're starting to get players that are examples that you want, that in a good program, the older players teach the younger players. You know, when I was at Iowa all those years, you know, Iowa struggled, but when Coach Fry went there, started winning, and I learned from the seniors. You know, I played behind Bob Stoops, and I played behind Mike Stoops, and then it was me, and then Mark Stoops was behind me. So, you know, and we all became head coaches, and so, you know, it's just what you do in good programs. So to have this caliber of good young receivers coming in, and then having them have a chance to see Torrey. You know, Torrey watched Romeo Dubs and when we were at Nevada, and he saw how Romeo practiced, and now Torrey gets to be the example for them, and so I think it's critically important that they get to see him and see how he plays and how he goes about his business.
You've talked a lot in the past quarterbacks, you know, the size, but there's an exception to every rule.
Yeah.
It is about Darius that
Yeah.
you know, makes him.
I think you know, it all has to be taken into consideration, and we do have size criteria, but there are exceptions, and you know, Darius is such an incredible playmaker. He's an athlete, but he's a passer, and I think that's where you have to really watch guys. Some guys run around. He is a guy that is incredibly talented as a passer, but he also has tremendous feet, and he can get out of trouble, and he creates plays. I mean, I think we found this year with Braden, you know, Braden is not a runner, but Braden can move his feet and make plays on the perimeter that extend plays that allows him to make big plays. And Darius is exactly like that. The other thing I think is a quality about a great quarterback is that great quarterbacks are kind of like the Pied Piper. I mean, people follow him, you know, and us getting Darius committed had a lot to do with Jordan Ross. It had a lot to do with Corey Hall. It had a lot to do with Brandon Bell. Those guys play with each other in Southern California, and they look up to Darius. They want to play with Darius. And you know, Jordan and Darius were just throwing together last weekend, building chemistry. And so that's all important. You know, a lot of these kids grow up in a neighborhood and competing against each other in 7-on-7, and so our kids are connected that way. And then once you start recruiting, kids recruit kids. And I think that's what you see from our program. And you know, when a kid comes here and he gets in that locker room, he's going to know a whole bunch of guys that he played against in high school or grew up with or played 7-on-7 with. So that really matters in recruiting.
What's kind of your favorite parts about this kind of signing cycle?
Yeah. I love going to see families. I love going off campus and going into people's homes and I had a pretty incredible experience. I mean, and if they're really good, you get to do it more than once, you know. And so, but I mean, it's pretty incredible to see where a kid lives, how he grew up. I always love going in kids' bedrooms because you can really find out a lot about them by what posters they have up and that type of stuff. And you usually got pretty good fodder to tease them later on. You know, but I had a pretty cool experience. I went and saw Torrey's parents, you know, when I was out recruiting in California. And I was there 4 years ago when he was coming out of high school. And I walk in the hallway, and there's a poster of Torrey playing baseball in high school, poster of Torrey playing basketball, poster of Torrey at Nevada, getting a newcomer of the year. Then he's a poster of Torrey at Colorado State, where he's a newcomer of the year here. And now he's a team MVP, and he gets our academic award. It's all on the walls. And to see a kid like that and his progress, and you've been so close to his family, is really cool. So, you know, I love those relationships, and I love seeing the progress that kids make. And, you know, this is a life-changing day for these kids. I think that gets lost in all this NIL and transfer portal. I mean, this is a day that changes kids' lives. I mean, a lot of these kids have never thought they'd get out of their neighborhood or these bad circumstances that they grow up in. And to get a scholarship and go to college, it changes their lives. It changes their families' lives. I mean, some of these moms that we talk to, they just were trying to get their kid through the next day, let alone trying to get them to college. So it's pretty good stuff what we get to do. And you get reminded of that every once in a while when you got to do all this other crap that you don't want to do. You remember why you got into this business. Sorry. Pretty good question, I guess. You got one. I know you do, Sean. Come on.
I don't want to ruin the because I will, but this would be perfect.
If you ask what I think you're going to ask, I'm really going to be disappointed in you.
No, I'm going to say I was going to, but I'm not.
No, don't do that today.
Amazon Prime won't let me watch them anymore. Anyway, with regards to your program of today, and besides goofy TV stuff, I don't want to say pressure, but is there, Torrey coming back is arguably one of your biggest off-season moves today.
Yeah, I think so.
Say that.
Yeah.
And you've talked publicly about BFN and the interest in kind of the poaching that's going on.
Yeah.
For these guys that are coming back right now, you've got a pretty good core that you know of. That
Yeah.
didn't know you have. I mean, is there pressure for year 3 on you, or an obligation to Torrey, to those guys who are back, to say, we were so close.
Yeah.
Those 4 or 5 games your way.
Yeah.
You come back, we're going to get this done. We can be a title-winning team in this.
Yeah, there's always pressure, but I think really to be specific to your question, I've always felt an obligation to good players. If you have a guy like Torrey, we need to put him in position to do the things that he came back for. And really, he came back to win a championship. He really did. And, with all the stats and all those things are cool, and they give a player status, but he wants to win. Braden, I wish I could share the text that Braden sent to me, but he wants to win. He wants to win a championship. And that's what we all get in this for. And I tell you what, you find out a lot about kids. I ask a kid a lot of questions when we're recruiting, but the bottom line is I want to know if he wants to win, and he wants to win a championship. And so that's the kind of kid that Torrey is. He's very unselfish. He got our academic award as well as our best player award. And so it shows you the quality of kid that he is. But yes, I feel responsibility. I coached for, I don't know, a dozen years, and then I coached pro football. And in pro football, when you have your top players on the roster, they need to get the ball. Owners want to know, why are we investing all this money in this guy if he's not getting the ball? And so, and when I was with the Raiders, I mean, we had Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Charlie Gardner. They all needed to get the ball. And so we had to spread it around, and that's how we game planned. And so that's what I do here. We do that, I know who my best players are, and Dallin Hoker and Torrey were going to get the ball this year. And they did. They got it more than really everybody in college football. And so, yes, there's an obligation to Torrey. There's an obligation to Braden and all our top players, Jack Howell, Henry Blackburn. We want to win. That's what we're in this business for. We don't coach football. We get hired to win, period. And I get that. And so, yeah, it's important. And, and there's a way that we want to go about that. And to just spin off on your question, that way is being challenged right now. The way that we build a football team to win is being challenged by the transfer portal and NIL. And I was going to get to this anyway, so I might as well say it. What we're seeing now, and you're a guy that follows professional football, you know, I was in the NFL for 6 years. There are strict rules about tampering. If a player's on your roster in the National Football League, you cannot talk to that player on another team, or nobody can talk to that player as long as he's on your roster. That is not the case in college football. And so that's where the problem lies. Our top 12 players have all been offered close to 6 figures, most of them over 6 figures, to leave Colorado State and get in the portal. You know, Braden Fowler was offered $600,000. A lot of people can't even fathom that a freshman in college would be offered that. It's happening all over the place. And so, you know, he threw for almost 3,500 yards as a freshman. What's his trajectory in 3 years? So that's what people look at. You know, and so what we're fighting is just trying to keep our kids here at Colorado State. We're not going to get in the market like a lot of these schools in this transfer portal where their NIL gets involved and they're recruiting all these. We're not trying to do that here at Colorado State. We just want to keep the good players that we've recruited and developed here. And so there's a lot of things going on in college football. You know, I want to be part of helping fix that, but we've got a lot of work to do. And it's certainly changed, but something has to be done. You know, if a school tampers with a player on somebody else's roster, they should get, I don't know if you can get fined, but they should get docked scholarships. That will hurt programs. And you're going to get me on my soapbox right now, but right now, all over college football, people are breaking the rules and they're buying their way out of it. Okay? They're buying their way out of it. They don't get penalized for bowl games. They don't get penalized for college football playoff games. Okay? They buy their way out of it. And so, I mean, look at what's happened all over. Look what's happened at Arizona State, Tennessee, Michigan. Nobody gets penalized for breaking the rules. So it's very frustrating when, for my whole career, I've been trying to do things the right way, and there's a lot of coaches that are doing things the right way. And it's very difficult to compete when you do everything the right way, when so many people are not. And these kids get confused by that. You know, that's why sometimes coaches spout off and say things, because people think it's right. It's not right. And as somebody who looks at himself as a responsible adult, I feel like I need to say that sometimes. I want our kids to know this is not the right way to do things. Let's do things the right way. And so it just needs to be corrected sometimes. And so I think we are traveling down a slippery slope in college athletics that cannot be sustained. And we need to be careful, because our young people are our future, and if we're not teaching them the right way to do things, then who is? And that's part of our job as coaches in college, I believe. So there's a lot to unpack there. But
can I ask a follow-up that is not met with avarice? You love when I lead in with that. Because, no, seriously, because what do you say to somebody who then says, and this is being devil's advocate, well, what about a coach who goes from a smaller budgeted program and goes to a bigger one and brings 20 of his former players with him, for example, and then he dares to say, how dare someone coach me? Because the Russian nesting doll works over.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Just when they say that.
That's a fair question. Yeah. And I've kind of answered that before. And I would say this: I didn't bring them with me. They left because they saw what happened to me. And they were disappointed on how I was treated. That's how I'd answer that question. And that's a bed somebody else made, not me. So, and they're still trying to make their bed. So I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
So while you're on the soapbox, what do we do with this then? I mean,
That's a great
the
question.
macro thing, because you're right that it's a model that is going to. There's
That's a
lot of
great
issues.
question.
It's not sustainable, and it's not sustainable for probably 3/4 of the programs in FBS right now.
Well,
that's where we're on that train.
I did not get to hear Chip Kelly's whole explanation. And obviously, I'm in a different place than Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's in a Power 5 school that's going to the Big Ten. I'm at a Group of 5 school, so my issues are a little different than his. But like Chip Kelly, I came from the National Football League back to college. And, we need to get everybody under one umbrella with the same rules. And right now, it certainly is not the case. Because there's no teeth to the enforcement of rules, and they don't, quite frankly, they don't even try to enforce the rules. And so, we have to put our heads together as coaches and kind of come up with some solutions to these problems. But there has to be a governing body that enforces the rules that everybody has agreed to play by. And until that happens, people are just running roughshod, and so it is what it is. And I hope that there's a window here in the next couple years where things can get rectified. But right now, it's a little bit out of control. And hopefully cooler heads prevail. We try to give kids information. We hope that the kids are reasonable and have good direction at home, and we can convince a lot of them of what a good situation is and what a bad situation is. And but some of them we just we can't control what's going on in social media and everything that they think's going on out there, and this is kind of spiraling out of control a little bit. But I had a conversation with one kid last week, and I just said, you can't. What social media is like, it's like driving down the street and you see a party and you weren't invited, and you wish you could be in there. And I told this kid, I said, you're never going to be happy in life if you're peeking over your fence into somebody else's backyard, wishing you could be over there. And that's what social media is to these kids. They think that there's something better out there, and most of it isn't accurate or true. And so, but there's a power in that right now in social media in our society, and it's swaying a lot of people's thoughts and views on things, especially our young people.
So Bob Bowlesby for college football commissioner.
If you could pull him away from Northern Iowa, I mean, in an interim role, somebody has to be in charge, and somebody has to.
Somebody, there should be could there be a commissioner?
It needs to be a commissioner, and everybody needs to understand what the penalties are if they color outside the lines. And that's not happening right now. The way this is happening now is that there's a third party that reaches out to kids on other rosters and says, if you get in the portal, you're going to make this amount of money. And so the kids don't know any better, and they get in, they follow up on that, and sometimes it's accurate and sometimes it's not. Some of our kids that have been approached, they got in the portal because somebody reached out to them, and what they were told didn't happen. And so the kids are the ones that are paying for it. Now, the kids are the ones that push this whole NIL deal, but I mean, it's unfortunate is what it is.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Proud of